Hey, everybody. Really glad to have you with us today. Maureen and I are talking about saving the planet. And part of saving the planet for me is this planet is not giving me the best internet connection right now. So this will be all Marina all the time, like it always is. But thanks for joining us for another exciting episode of the Herbalism Show. I'll click the reel and we'll jump right into it. All right, Marina. So we usually talk about herbalism giving us so many benefits health-wise, but you titled this show "How Herbalism Can Save the Planet." So we get to go even deeper on all the impacts of herbalism.
Yes, thank you for handing me the mic. I love our little intro. Can never get tired of that one. Herbalism. So as I'm always mentioning, it's been around for longer than we've been around, right? The Homo sapiens species. There's all these other kingdoms that were around and evolving to create other kingdoms of life and living organisms. And we are kind of at the top of that food chain. And the unique thing about our species is that we are at the top of the ecosystem, so we can integrate the other living organisms to our advantage, and we've kind of co-evolved our bodies, not just human cells. We have the microbiome, we have viruses, we have bacteria, fungi, parasites, and so there's this balance in our ecosystem that once that's thrown off, that's when disease or illness presents itself. And as we're at the top of this ecosystem, we've kind of modified the world and environment around us more than any other species on this planet. And as our industries have grown and as things have become mass produced, mass scale, everything's become industrialized. That has also wreaked havoc in our outer greater world and also in our microcosm, in our inner world, and that's been impacting our bodies. And that is why I believe we have such an epidemic of so much chronic illness, infertility, sick children. Each generation is exposed to more and more toxins from these industrial chemicals and pollution and harmful practices, just to make our life more easy and more convenient, right? To have all these factory produced, mass produced goods. On the one hand, it's easy, it's convenient. And this reminds me of a post you posted yesterday. But is it really the best thing to support us in the long term? And what's going to happen and impact the planet in the long term because of these practices? And we're now seeing changes in weather, right? Snow out of season, like we haven't had snow in New York and the East Coast. We barely had like some drops of like frozen rain here and there, but there hasn't been snow this winter. So global warming is real, because of all these emissions and carbon polluting us and carbon gases and greenhouse effects. So some people say it's not true, but we can clearly see things are changing and shifting. And again, even if you don't believe it, I mean, species are going extinct, forests are on fire, there's deserts, there's food deserts, there's crops that are not doing well. What we're doing with our crops, right, with the genetic engineering and the pesticides and the herbicides and the glyphosates, like there's not enough research, right? And then there's all the EMFs and the microwaves and other kinds of things that we've just taken as, okay, this is part of the evolution, this is technology, this is good, but we don't really know. Bluetooth all day long, devices that are wireless. So we kind of have to see that, yes, it's progress, it's evolution, it's great, it's convenient, but some of these things are harming us, even if we don't have enough quote unquote studies. We kind of can see some correlations, even if it's not a proven causation yet. And I believe that it's because of these modern practices. And so I'll take a break before I tell you where herbalism comes in.
So, the funny thing is the break, like my mind is catching up because I just finally had my internet catch up, which is so nice. But with that, Marina, you talked about a ton of things, right? A ton of different things that we can kind of consider. And you mentioned something that I love. Even if you don't like, that's not your cup of tea. I know, no pun intended. You know me, Marina. That's totally pun intended. But if it's not your cup of tea, and you think cyclical, like you're thinking, hey, global warming, this is a cyclical event, et cetera, et cetera. The one thing that I love that you're really getting to is the lack of information that we have on what is going on. And the other thing that you and I have talked about is the way that we've allowed ourselves to be so disassociated with the earth, right? Of how it provides things for us, how we need to take care of it for it to do things for us. And we've really started to rely upon many convenient things, that we can let it sit. I mean, there's the old joke with the Twinkies. You can take your Twinkie and you can sit it on a log, and go 100 years later, the Twinkie will still be there and the log will not, right? And those kind of things, like in my mind, it's like, how can we think that these are good, for us, that these are good practices? And then when it comes to, I mean, I come from a farming family, and most of the farming done, by my family was smaller scale pasture cattle, or smaller like farming operations overall. But with profit comes margins, and with margins comes innovation. And sometimes with innovations comes cheapening, right? Or lessening of overall products and quality. And so I think that we sometimes underestimate the full impact and breadth of what that diminished quality can do to us as a species, as children of God, as however we want to kind of look at that. But we don't recognize all the blessings that we're given within the quality that was already there. But I'd love to hear, like you said, the next kind of twist on how herbalism can make a huge difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I'm a fan of running water and sanitation and all of that. I mean, it's
Yes.
great, but yeah, we do tend to take it for granted, right? Like the fact that, we have this ability to turn on the electricity and to go take a shower, to cook a meal with, the faucet right there. So it's about kind of slowing down. So one thing that the herbs are teaching us is about slowing down and having the gratitude and the appreciation and the reflection on what you have, what the resources are that are available. And at the same time, it's teaching us diversity is important, right? So the more diverse the creatures and species and our ecology is, the healthier it is, because we are designed to all have a natural predator and have a prey, right? So we all have this cycle of life that we are all in relationship to one another and to the land and to the earth and to the environment. But there's a natural cycle, and we all have a prey and a predator, except for the human. The human is like the ultimate predator that just preys on everyone else and everything else. So we need the checks and balances, right? Otherwise, we're just going to be uncontrolled. Our population is going to be uncontrolled. And I'm not for, let's, control our population by limiting the number of children or
stewardship, right?
Or all of that. Yeah, I'm about stewardship. That's right. So it's not about, genocide or like crazy tactics. It's about just understanding that everybody has a control, everybody has a checks and balance. That's the way we're designed. We're here in the physical body for a certain time, and we're supposed to enjoy it and rejoice in it, and have an interesting and beautiful experience with ups and downs and good and bad, but hopefully more good. And we're supposed to also reflect on those experiences. We're not just supposed to be go 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 until we burn ourselves out, to the ground and to the grave. And we're supposed to have, those stops, right? And so the stops are important ecologically, and the stops are also important psychologically, based on kind of what I just said. And we don't have that. We've just been go all the time, evolution and progress and productivity all the time. And nothing is at stake as long as industries are thriving, money's moving. Like, we don't cherish and value, nothing is sacred for us as long as productivity is not affected. And I think that's the problem. I think that's what the herbs are teaching us, that it's about balance, it's about diversity, it's about all of us thriving in community rather than an invasive species coming in, that's us in this case,
Yeah.
and taking over everything so that nothing else can thrive except for that one uncontrolled invasive species. So the plant world has its own checks and balances, and then there's the fungal kingdom, which decomposes everything that is no longer living. So they have their own ways and cycles of how to move through life and death and then rebirth. If you don't believe that for humans, well, in the other kingdoms that happens. So
Yes.
so basically it's recycling, right? It's using the resources that we have and recycling them and repurposing them. And so the humans have stopped doing that. We've just started doing, one time use, disposable, everything is disposable mentality. And this exists in every industry, like clothing, right? When it's handmade or it's cared for, and the resources that we're using for clothes too, whether it's natural resource, it's a renewable resource, whether it grows in the ground or once grew in the ground or completely synthetic. And obviously in our medical industry and the food industry, some food like items are not even plant-based or animal-based, right? So I believe the plants are teaching us that we all are connected in this natural cycle and rhythm. And if we take the time to reflect and like just have the common sense that, the synthetic like things, we're not so advanced and evolved that we can break that down easily. Our body doesn't recognize those things.
Yeah.
So we have evolved to recognize the living organisms, and in the more natural way and form as it exists in nature, the closest it is to how it exists in nature is most likely the most beneficial for us. And also the more local those products are, the better for us, which is why I always support, local economy and local ecology. And that is how we can start to decentralize this, vast system that exists, even though it's convenient.
Mhm.
If we start to kind of look around at our immediate community and take care of that, take care of our own body, our family, and in community support those plants and those farmers around us by having a relationship with them. Cooking our own meals even can be an act of self-love and self-care, because you're putting that intention. You're also smelling the food as you're cooking it, so it activates all sorts of senses and intentions and pleasure. So just being more present in your own life, right? That's what herbalism teaches us: being resourceful for using the resources that you already have versus having to go out and get new ones made that you're going to throw out anyway, that everything is disposable.
Yep.
And just taking care of yourself in your immediate community. I and honoring diversity versus, the monocrops, right, that are everywhere. And I think that's the real gift of herbalism. And just on a, larger scale, if we take care of the planet, as I've been saying before,
Yep.
by looking at these practices and at least changing it for us in our immediate community, and maybe getting laws and regulations, getting involved in the politics a little bit to advocate for what is hurting your body and what you would like to change it to. All those things are something that we could be doing. And by taking care of the earth, again, it will be taking care of us.
I love it. I mean, just you focusing so much on the process of truly embracing herbalism is just, it is slowing down. Like it's slowing down and recognizing. I mean, stop and smell the roses. I mean, there's so many phrases that we've heard over the years, right, that are utilized to describe the process of just slowing down and recognizing the blessings that we have in front of us. And then recognizing why. And I think that the things you touched on that I love, that I'm going to take as a take home message, Marina, are really the everything being disposable. Like you said that multiple times, right? And me thinking about all the things that have been good, like truly good and wonderful, in life, they're not, right? Those are the things that are lasting. kind of impressions. I mean, the cooking, like we were so quick to be able to move over toward, can I get a fast food prepared meal? Can I find something that is in a package to be able to eat, immediately? And me thinking as a boy, like I loved when my grandma would cook and I could smell the cooking there and I ate the food that she prepared. It didn't matter what it was, like it was made with love, right? And I knew that she cared about it and wanted to give it to me. And I think we miss that. Like we miss those opportunities. The clothes we're wearing. I mean, thinking about some of the dresses that my mom had, that my grandmother made, and those types of things, that there was real us cherishing the things that were there, and that just wasn't, Kevin and Savannah dropping off another bag of the Salvation Army of stuff they shouldn't have got in the first place. It was just really just getting what you need, having that minimalist kind of mentality. I really love how herbalism can teach us some of those things and reconnect us with, what really matters. I mean, the Native American backgrounds of having plants in a triad, was a big thing. And there's a reason why, because they all did different things for each other when it came to soil stability and nitrogen fixation, et cetera, that are more complex scientific components. But from us thinking about not monocropping, things out, there is a ton of advantage. Letting soil rest. Like there's so many things that we think that it gets in the way of progress so quickly. Just like the post we had the other day, Marina, you and I were talking about, is should we be pushing medications out there for a quick fix all the time as the only option? If you come to the Herbalism channel on RPH Ally, you'll know why that is a terrible idea. So I really hope that you guys can join us there. Any parting words for the audience, Marina?
Yeah, something that I also always say is there's a season for everything. So the checks and balances, the parasympathetic and sympathetic system. And so it's for the plants, it's like you see them in nature and they don't always look the same. They don't always function the same. They don't always bloom, right? The flowers. So, and then there's a seed. So it follows a very rhythmic cycle. And I think we just expect ourselves to always be on, and we don't value the off, like we were saying. So there's an inherent, dissonance when that happens. So we need to have the balance, and plants teach us to have a balance and to honor all the cycles. One is not better than the other. Action is not better than rest, but they both must be coexisting, maybe at different times. And then the last thing I want to say is ritual, right? So that's the slowing down thing too, where right now, the only rituals that we have left is when people are religious and there's certain rites of passage, but not everybody is religious. And then there's weddings, right? Weddings is probably one of the only rituals that people have. And, when a baby's born too, as a sort of ritual. And there's not enough time in our life where we just come together and observe rituals and celebrate, and that's a shame, right? So herbalism is really a way of life. It's creating your life as the medicine and as the ritual.
I love it. Thank you so much, Marina. You have a wonderful day. Everybody listening, I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, check out everything Marina has going on. She's got another podcast. She does shows. She does everything. Like if you can think of it in the herbalism space, Marina is your gal. You can also find her on rphally.com. Hope to see you guys all there.